Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I?
It's Samuel. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Jo Marie. If you guys haven't checked out the first video of this Outlander filled series, make sure to go to check it out, where Erica and I went to Edinburgh on our first day in Scotland and kind of went around and visited different touristy areas of Edinburgh. And so make sure to check that out because why not? I started watching Outlander back in 2018, fall of 2018, during my second co-op term, where I want to watch a series. I'm very into like historical dramas that kind of like tells a story about some aspects of history with a little bit of drama, because you kind of need something to kind of have some truth aspect to it rather than just having a show filled with drama, nonsense drama. Riverdale. I'm not gonna call anyone out. Riverdale. But yeah, so Outlander, I immediately got hooked on the show with the love connection between Claire and Jamie, like everyone does, obviously. And so, and not just that aspect of the show, I also enjoyed learning about the history of Scotland with the Jacobite Rising, and basically the battle between different nations, with like the British versus the Scottish, and then with like France and America and all that. So I finished the whole season, the whole series in about, I think, 6 weeks, like about a month. At the time they only had 3 seasons, so I finished all that in 6 weeks. So that was fun. And then I got really sad because Outlander wasn't coming back for season 4 until January, so I had to wait about like 4 months, I think. And so I was like, ah. So typical fangirl, as anyone would, in order to like I don't know, like I don't even know what I'm saying. So basically I just watched like fan fiction or read fan fictions and like video compilations that people made of the show, and so that kind of helped me until Outlander season 4 came back. And then yeah, so Outlander season 5 premieres. I'm pretty sure when this video goes up, episode 1 has already went up, and don't spoil it. Don't spoil it down below because I haven't watched it yet, or I'm pretty sure when this video goes up, I'm pretty sure I've watched it already. But for those who haven't seen Outlander, or if you haven't seen Outlander yet, make sure not to watch this video yet, because this includes a lot of spoilers. So make sure to come back when you're done the entire series, because you don't want to spoil anything, because it's such a great show. So yeah, stay tuned for this Outlander filled vlog video. The morning of our very much Outlander day, we went down, ate breakfast, checked out, and took an Uber because we weren't going to make it to our scheduled tour bus. But before we got on our bus, we had to make a priority stop to Bakehouse Close. And for those who aren't familiar with this place, season 3 episode 6, A Malcolm, is the reunion of Claire and Jamie in 1766 Edinburgh, which is, I think, 2016 Edinburgh when they filmed it.
It's okay, pretend to touch the sign.
Oh, it's supposed to be, the sign is supposed to be here. It's like a big red sign. Yeah.
Yay! Can't go underneath this
Obviously, the print shop isn't real, so they had to use this outside exterior to make it seem like it was the front entrance of his print shop. Just a heads up, this is the first stop in our very Outlander filled day, so you can imagine how excited and just overwhelmed I was for the rest of the day.
One of the places are Outlander film. Season 3?
Yes, season 3.
Where Claire sees Jamie in the print shop. It's so cute. I watched the scene too.
When doing research on tours around Scotland, we stumbled upon Haggis Adventures, which was founded in 1993, and we had the lovely Caroline as our driver and the person who spoke the entire time, which was very impressive of how knowledgeable she was. Since Scotland was surrounded by a lot of bodies of water, there were 3 main bridges that help people cross different areas of Scotland. And so the one on the right, the red one, is the first bridge that was ever made. And then I believe the one that we were on was the second. I didn't get much sleep, so I kind of slept a bit since the ride to our first stop was about 45 to an hour. Our first stop was in Falkland, which is season 1, episode 1, where Frank and Claire had their second honeymoon in Inverness. And they stayed in this cute bed and breakfast, and little did she know she would get a glimpse of her future Highlander husband, James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, or also known as Jamie. So where I'm standing is exactly where Jamie was standing that night. Quick fun fact, this bench was dedicated to Johnny Cash and his family because some guy stumbled upon Johnny on an airplane and he found out that he had family that originated from Falkland. So he would come sometimes in the summer to do little performance in that circle area, and so they got a bench for him. This next stop I am very excited to talk about because it's Midhope Castle, or as the Outlander fans know, it's Lallybrook, where Jamie, Jenny, and Ian live with their family. And oh my gosh, I felt goosebumps the entire time I was here because it was just so real knowing that this is where they film some parts of season 1 and I think season 3, where Jamie goes back to live with Jenny after his midlife crisis. But also season 2 or 3, where Claire comes back to visit with Bree and she has a beautiful moment on a staircase where she read a poem and she kind of imagines Jamie standing underneath the arch. I sobbed in that episode. So you can only imagine how I felt standing underneath that arch. Just wow. We were only there for about like an hour before we moved on to our next stop, and without being dramatic or anything, but it was just so sad to leave. The last stop before lunch was Lithgow Town. I don't know if I said that right. Basically, it's season 1 finale where Jamie is imprisoned by Jack Randall. And for those who have watched the episode, you know what happened in that prison, so I'm not going to go into detail because it was very traumatic for Jamie. We had lunch at 1807, this little cute cafe / restaurant, and the service took a little longer than expected because all of us were basically in that one restaurant as it was Memorial Day weekend, and so there wasn't a lot of stores open, but it was still very yummy. Up next on our Outlander tour is our second last stop of the day, which is Doune Castle. Filming location for Outlander Season 1, Castle Leoch, is where Claire basically meets everyone in Mackenzie clan. If you ever visit Doune Castle, you'll know what my favorite part was.
I'm Sam Hewen and I play Jamie Frank. dashing warrior hero of the hit TV drama Outlander. His name is...
It's Sam Hewen. If you haven't already guessed it from the look on my face, yes, the tour at Doune Castle includes an audio personally recorded by the one and only Sam Hewen. I was freaking out. The exterior of the castle and the first floor was primarily used to film Outlander, where the upper level was used to film Monty Python. The space you see here is where they filmed the kitchen in Castle York. I can't believe how tall this space was because in the actual show it looks so tiny and short, but it's pretty massive. But I guess if you have a lot of props and the actors plus the crew filling up the space, it's not as comfortable as you think it is. If you're wondering why this great hall looks familiar, it is because it's the dining hall for Castle York, where Clan Mackenzie had a lot of their extravagant dinners and parties and such. They kept some of the furniture that you weren't allowed to touch just to give you kind of an idea of how filming was done here. In the audio, Sam Hewen talked about how he learned how to speak Gaelic while filming the first season of Outlander, and oh my gosh, I thought he knew how to speak it the entire time because he sounds so good. After our tour, we spent 10 minutes in the gift shop where Jessica clearly had a fun time. We were in such a rush by the end of our tour of Doune Castle that I actually left my scarf there, and I was so sad, and I didn't even realize I left my scarf until like 30 minutes into the drive, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I left my scarf in the gift shop. So if you ever visit Doune Castle, and if you get a chance, maybe ask the gift shop people if they've seen a black scarf from H&M. That's most likely mine. The drive to our last stop was about 30 to 45 minutes away from Doune Castle, so Eric and I spent some time taking a nap, and when we woke up, we saw this very beautiful scenery. For a non-Outlander fun fact, parts of Captain America: The First Adventure was actually filmed in the town of Culross, but unfortunately, those scenes were cut from the final version of the movie. In season 4 of Outlander, we got to see where LaKey lives, and if you remember the part where Bree and the youngest daughter was planting flowers and such in the garden outside their home, it was actually filmed in the town of Culross, but unfortunately, we couldn't visit it because it was someone's home. The yellow building that you see is the Culross Palace, which was used to film in season 1 and 2 of The Garden in Castle York, I believe. The next location is Mercat Cross, the filming location for Cranesmere in season 2, I believe, where Galis lived in this white house here, and the little boy who got his ear nailed to a piece of wood was filmed in this circle right there. Unfortunately, my visit was a little late because, as we know, Galis died in 1767 in Jamaica. While we waited for everyone to board back on the bus, me and Erica played a bit in the playground where they had this really interesting swing with a water view. I would definitely come back and visit again because we didn't really see a lot of the different places that Culross has to offer, and also I would definitely come back to see this view again because, come on, look how stunning it is. The drive back to Edinburgh was such a bittersweet time because although it was a whole day of traveling, it felt so short, but I had such a great time and I will never forget it. Sadly, Eric and I were only in Scotland for a weekend, which meant 3 days and 3 nights. And so we caught a train from Edinburgh to Glasgow on Sunday night, where we had reservations at a guest house. And to give you an idea of how our trip in Glasgow went, here's a sneak peek. We're in our hotel in Glasgow. It's the most sketchy ass thing. There's a third bed.
oh my gosh, just wow. I can't believe that Erica and I were able to go on the tour and visit the different Outlander filming locations, because every fangirl's dream is to visit the spots where your favorite actors and actresses have stepped foot. I know how crazy that sounds, but I was in the same place that Sam Heughan was shirtless and like Kat was in, and like so that was that. So there was a bit of a part of the video in Mid-Hope Castle that I showed a key that I didn't get really to talk about because we were in a rush, but basically the people who live there and that who live there and like does the upkeep for Mid-Hope Castle, they had a farm that they wanted to like fundraise to make sure they're able to upkeep the farm animals that live there. And so they were selling these little keys that is kind of like a replica of the key. I don't know if it's focusing. The key that Jamie melted down to make a ring for Claire. And so that was very exciting. And it's so cute because it says, "We're going home, Sassenach to Ladybrook." I'm sorry, my Gaelic or my accent sucks. I'm a Canadian Filipino girl who isn't very good at accents, but anyways, that was very exciting. They just had like a little cash box where all donations are welcome. They trusted us that we would donate and not just steal the keys, so I think I gave £2 or £3 to donate, and then yeah, I got the key. It's just a really nice like souvenirs because and it's really smart because it wasn't like your typical souvenirs that I saw all over Scotland where it was like either a keychain or like a very expensive replica of the ring, which cost like I think 60 to like £100, which was a lot. And so this was a nice keepsake to remember that I was actually at Ladybrook. Woo! I was so sad that I didn't get to visit the place where they filmed the stone circles, just because that was a little bit out of range where we could travel to. We didn't have a car. Me and Erica don't drive, and obviously since we don't drive, we don't have our license to be able to drive in Scotland. I'm pretty sure people who live in Scotland or like who are able to rent a car, you'd be able to go to the stone circles, but we weren't able to as it wasn't part of the tour, and we were only there for 3 days, so we wouldn't have been able to find a tour that was willing to bring us to the circles. But I'm so thankful for stumbling upon Haggis Adventures. This video is totally not sponsored by Haggis Adventures. It was just a tour company that I stumbled upon on Google when I searched Outlander tour in Scotland, and it was a really nice price range where I think our ticket cost I think 80 to 95 pounds, which translated to like 150 to almost 200 Canadian, which is totally not bad because it was a whole day. Caroline, our driver and tour person, drove the entire time, and she was very knowledgeable, and she like knew everything from the history of Mary Queen of Scots, where she lived, her life, the different bridges that we visited, the different towns we visited. So I was very thankful for Caroline for showing us around. She's a really sweet girl, and if you get the chance to have her as your tour guide, you are lucky to have her as your tour guide. So make sure to go check out Haggis Adventures because they are honestly one of the greatest, in my experience, tour guides I've ever had. I've been to so many double-decker buses where the tour guides weren't very familiar with the history, or they just like pointed out that's sad, but they didn't really provide us with a lot of information. And so Caroline, she was very knowledgeable. So I can't emphasize enough of how great Caroline was. Haggis Adventures, highly recommend them. They've been a company since 1993, and they're still doing tours every weekend. So you can tell already that they're very, very great and like very popular of a tourist guide company. Yeah. So, that isn't the end of this Scotland Outlander tour series. So make sure to stay tuned for episode 3, where we visit Glasgow. Sadly, that was our last stop. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video.